Hi everyone, happy Friday. Today we'll be talking about Black LGBTQ plus history makers, so excited to jump into that topic. Just gonna wait for my co-host to join and then we'll get started. Hey Marshawn, how are you?
Hey Jewel, how are you?
I'm good, happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Cool. So real quick, if anyone needs to access HIV or STI testing, please use the pinned comment or almost pinned comment in the chat. Feel free to give Whitman-Walker a call at 202-797-4439 to schedule an HIV testing appointment. Yeah, again, today we're talking about Black LGBTQ plus history makers and their impacts and the first that they accomplished in this world. So my name is Jewel and I use she, hers pronouns. And during the COVID-19 pandemic, Whitman-Walker's Community Health Department has expanded its outreach efforts to the social media platform. We cover various topics about HIV and STIs, sexual health practices, access to care, social determinants of health, and public health interventions. The community health team is here to educate and support you.
Hello everyone, my name is Marshawn. I use pronouns he and she, and I work with Jewel as well to bring educational Instagram lives with the Whitman-Walker's Health community team. So as we continue to celebrate Black History Month, we're going to discuss Black LGBTQ plus history makers.
Exciting. So we wanted to give a quick shout out to NBCnews.com for their article highlighting these stellar history makers. The article opens up with this powerful quote by David J. Johns, who is the executive director of the National Black Justice Coalition. And it goes, as long as there have been Black people, there have been Black LGBTQ and same-gender loving people. Racism combined with the forces of stigma, phobia, discrimination, and bias associated with gender and sexuality have too often erased the contributions of members of our community. Now let's dive into some history and play our part in making sure that it never gets erased.
Period. First, Jewel, we have pioneer and performer Gladys Bentley. Bentley was a gender-bending performer during the Harlem Renaissance, donning a top hat and tuxedo. Bentley would sing the blues in Harlem establishments like the Clam House and the Ubunji Club. According to the belated obituary published in 2019, the New York Times said Bentley, who died in 1960 at the age of 52, was Harlem's most famous lesbian in the 1930s and among the best-known Black entertainers in the United States.
Next up, we've got Bayard Rustin, who was alive from 1912 to 1987. Rustin was an LGBTQ and civil rights activist, best known for being a key advisor to Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. He organized the 1963 March on Washington and was posthumously awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which is the nation's highest civilian honor, in 2013 for his activism. In 2020, Governor Gavin Newsom pardoned Rustin for his arrest in 1953 when he was found having sex with two men in a parked car in Pasadena. Rustin served 50 days in Los Angeles County Jail and had to register as a sex offender for the crime. In pardoning Rustin, Newsom noted how LGBTQ people were unjustly punished for their sexuality by the U.S. law enforcement at the time of Rustin's arrest.
That's crazy to think about now. Next we have Stormy DeLavari, 1920 through 2014. Stormy was a biracial masculine lesbian performer born in New Orleans, Louisiana. As a teenager, she joined the Ringling Brothers Circus where she rode jumping horses. Then from 1955 to 1969, DeLavari toured the Black theater circuit as the MC and the only drag king of the Jewel Box Review, the first racially integrated drag review in North America. She also worked as a bouncer for several lesbian city in the 80s and the 90s and held a number of leadership positions in the Stonewall Veterans Association. DeLavari also served the community as a volunteer street patrol worker and as a result was called the guardian of lesbians in the village. Beyond her LGBTQ activism, DeLavari also organized and performed at fundraisers for women who suffered from domestic violence and their children.
Thanks for that, Marshawn. Um, Next up, we've got James Baldwin, who was alive from 1924 to 1987. A writer and social critic, Baldwin is perhaps best known for his 1955 collection of essays, Notes of a Native Son, and his groundbreaking 1956 novel, Giovanni's Room, which depicts themes of homosexuality and bisexuality. The novel stood out among literary critics because it features all-white characters, unlike the civil rights activists' other novels, which center the experiences of Black people. Baldwin spent a majority of his literary and activist career educating others about Black and queer identity, as he did during his famous lecture titled Race, Racism, and the Gay Community at a meeting of the New York chapter of Black and White Men Together, now known as Men of All Colors Together, in 1982. We also have next up Lorraine Hansberry, who was alive from 1930 to 1965. Hansberry was an activist and playwright best known for her groundbreaking play A Raisin in the Sun, about a struggling Black family on Chicago's South Side. After the play's release, Hansberry became the first Black playwright and youngest American to win a New York Critics Circle Award. A Raisin in the Sun, named after a line in Langston Hughes' poem Harlem, A Dream Deferred, opened at New York City's Ethel Barrymore Theater in March 1959, becoming the first play written by an African-American woman to be produced on Broadway. The iconic work that was then made into a 1961 film starring Sidney Poitier and Ruby Dee. Prior to Raisin in the Sun fame, Hansberry, who never publicly acknowledged she was a lesbian, joined lesbian rights group Daughters of Bilitis, and contributed letters about feminism and homophobia to its magazine, The Latter, according to the LGBTQ historian Eric Marcus and host of the Making Gay History podcast. Marcus notes that Hansberry didn't officially come out until nearly half-century after her death, when in her 2014 estate Unsealed Diaries and Other Writings in which she reveals her sexuality. Hansberry died in 1965 at just 34 years old of pancreatic cancer.
Next, we have Alvin Ailey, 1931 through 1989. Ailey was a choreographer who founded the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater, one of the most prominent dance companies globally, in 1958. His signature work include Cry and Revelations continued to be performed all over the world. In 2014, Ailey was posthumously awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom for his individual work in bringing dance to underserved communities. Next, we have Audre Lorde, 1934 through 1992. Lorde, a self-described Black lesbian, feminist, mother, poet, and warrior, made lasting contributions in the field of feminist theory, critical race studies, and queer theory through her pedagogy and writing. Among her most notable work are Code, 1976, The Black Unicorn, 1978, The Cancer Journals, 1980, and Zami, A New Spelling of My Name, 1982. I quote, "I write for those women who do not speak, for those who do not have a voice because they were so terrified, because we were taught to respect fear more than ourselves. We've been taught that silence would save us, but it won't last," said Lorde.
So powerful.
Definitely.
Next up, we've got Ernestine Eckstein, who was alive from 1941 to 1992. Eckstein was a leader in the New York chapter of the Daughters of Bilitis, which was the first lesbian civil and political rights organization in the United States, the same one that Lorraine Hansberry was a part of. She attended Annual Reminder, which was a picket protest, and was frequently one of the only women who was there and the only Black woman present at the early LGBTQ rights protests. Eckstein was also an early activist in the Black feminist movement of the 1970s and was involved in the organization of Black women Organized for Action. According to historians, she viewed the fight for civil rights and LGBTQ rights as intrinsically linked. And next up, we've got Barbara Jordan, who was alive from 1936 to 1996. Jordan was a civil rights leader and attorney and became the first African American elected to the Texas Senate in 1966, and was the first woman and first African American elected to Congress from Texas in 1972. Jordan was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom by Bill Clinton in 1994 for her work as a political trailblazer. While Jordan never explicitly acknowledged her sexual orientation in public, she was open about her life partner of nearly 30 years, Nancy Earl.
Next, we have Marsha P. Johnson, 1945 through 1992. Marsha P. Johnson, who would cheekily tell people the P stood for Pay It No Mind, was an outspoken transgender rights activist and is reported to be one of the central figures of the historic Stonewall Uprising in 1969. Along with fellow trans activist Sylvia Riviera, Johnson also helped form Street Transgender Action Revolutionaries, known as STAR, a radical political organization that provided housing and other forms of support to homeless, queer youth, and sex workers in Manhattan, New York. She also performed with the drag race troupe Hot Peaches from 1972 through the 90s and was an AIDS activist with the AIDS Coalition to Unleash Power, ACT UP. Shout out to Marsha P. Next, we have Miss Major Griffin Gracie, born in 1940, who is still alive. Miss Major is a Black transgender woman and activist at the forefront for the rights for trans activists. She faced many hurdles during her life, including homelessness, incarceration, and it's these challenges that fueled her activism. In 2005, Miss Major joined San Francisco-based transgender variant and intersex justice project, TGIJP, as a staff organizer and later as an executive director to lead the group's efforts advocating for incarcerated trans women. She has often spoke out against the prison system, which she says continues to the incarceration of transgender individuals, particularly trans people of color and those with low income. Now 79, Miss Major, known as simply as Mama, resides in Little Rock, Arkansas, where she continues to be a vocal activist.
And just a few years ago, we were so fortunate to have Miss Major join us at the Trans Pride, or Capitol Trans Pride in DC at Studio Theater. So she is still out. She's still sharing her voice and sharing her story. And you can check out her documentary somewhere online, I believe, but she's just an amazing person. Next up, we've got Ron Oden, who was born in 1950, still here with us today. When Oden was elected mayor of Palm Springs, California in 2003, he made history by becoming the first openly gay African-American man elected mayor of an American city. Following Oden's historic election 17 years ago, the Palm Springs City Council made history once again in December 2017 when it became America's first all-LGBTQ city council. We also have Phil Wilson, who was born in 1956 and again still with us today. Phil is a prominent African-American HIV and AIDS activist and founded the Black AIDS Institute in 1999, in part inspired by the death of his partner from an HIV-related illness and his own HIV diagnosis. In 2010, Wilson was appointed to President Obama's Advisory Council on HIV and AIDS. And Wilson also served as a World AIDS Summit delegate and advocated for the Center for Disease Control and Prevention to provide additional funding to Black groups so that they would have the resources to educate and mobilize their community around HIV and AIDS issues. His work resulted in the Act Against AIDS campaign, now known as the Let's Stop HIV Together campaign, which promotes HIV testing, prevention, and treatment.
And next we have Andrea Jenkins, born in 1961. Jenkins made history in November 2017 by becoming the first openly transgender Black woman elected to public office in the U.S. According to the LGBTQ advocacy groups and researchers, Jenkins, a Democrat, was one of the two openly trans people to win a seat on the Minneapolis City Council in 2017. She is also a published poet and an oral historian at the University of Minnesota. Jenkins made history again in January of 2022 when she was elected the first transgender official in the U.S. to lead a city council. And next we have Willie Ninja, 1961 through 2006. Ninja was a dancer and choreographer and is considered the grandfather of Vogue, the dance style that he helped propel to the national stage. Voguing, characterized by angular body movements and exaggerated runway poses, was introduced to the public in the award-winning 1990 documentary Paris is Burning, which Ninja appeared in and was popularized by Madonna's 1990 hit song Vogue.
Thank you all for taking some time to learn about Black LGBTQ plus history makers with us. And if you'd like to dive further into the history, check out outhistory.org's African American LGBTQ plus U.S. timeline 1912 to present, which is an online exhibit. You can also check out the National Museum of African American History and Cultures, the Harlem Renaissance in Black Queer History, online and at nmaahc.si.edu.
Okay, thanks for that, Jewel. And everyone, before we go, we just want to share a few reminders about HIV and STI prevention and testing services available through Whitman-Walker. To learn more about Whitman-Walker Health's testing hours and location, visit us online at www.whitman-walker.org/testing. HIV and STI testing services are available by appointment at Whitman-Walker Southeast and Northwest locations. Feel free to give us a call at 202-797-4439 to schedule a testing appointment, and be sure to check out our website for the most up-to-date information on hours. If your community or your organization is interested in Whitman-Walker providing mobile health services in your neighborhood, contact us via email at mobilehealth@whitman-walker.org to access HIV prevention tools like PrEP or PEP, or start treatment for HIV with Whitman-Walker Health at our Max Robinson Anacostia location or 14th Street Logan Circle location.
Thank you, Marshawn. And before we go, we want to give you a few reminders about COVID-19 and vaccines. If you've already gotten vaccinated, congratulations. You've taken a really important step to preventing yourself and your loved ones and your community from getting sick. Multiple variants have soared across the world, and it's totally understandable why you might want to keep wearing your mask, as the vaccine is not 100% effective. More contagious variants are spreading, and there are very few protocols in place to actually verify if folks around you have been vaccinated or not. So just keep staying alert. If you haven't been vaccinated and you're looking for an appointment, Whitman-Walker Health has COVID-19 vaccine available. Please reach out to us at 202-207-2480 to make an appointment. And if you're having trouble making an appointment with them, and you're a DC resident, you can visit vaccinate.dc.gov or call 1-855-363-0333. Maryland residents can visit covidlink.maryland.gov or call 1-855-634-6829. And Virginia residents can visit vaccinate.virginia.gov or call 1-877-829-4682. If you have not been vaccinated and you're not looking for an appointment, please continue to follow CDC guidelines for mask wearing, quarantining, social distancing, and the like. It's really important that you consider getting the vaccine. Discuss COVID precautionary measures with those around you and be mindful of mask and keeping your distance, but especially when you don't know whether a person has been vaccinated or not.
Okay, thanks for that, Jewel. And last but not least, a monkeypox update. According to the CDC, there are more than 29,000 cases of monkeypox documented in the U.S. In DC, you can pre-register for a monkeypox appointment at preventmonkeypox.dc.gov. Virginia residents, Virginia is currently working with local care providers to contact trace and identify those most in need of the monkeypox vaccine. The Maryland Health Department just released a pre-registration system for Maryland residents to register for the vaccine. No matter where you are, please visit your local state health department for more information on how to register and get vaccinated against monkeypox. And last but not least, everyone, thanks for joining us today and continuing to celebrate Black History Month with us. Be sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Whitman-Walker, and check out our website, www.whitman-walker.org, for the most up-to-date information and for our services and hours. For more COVID-19 resources and general Whitman-Walker Health Services, please call us at 202-797-4439, and be sure to follow some of our programs in the Whitman-Walker family on Instagram at RealTalkDC_ and at NoFilterDC. Thanks, Jewel. I hope you have a great weekend.
Thanks, you too, Marshawn.
Bye.